Welcome to the Screener College Basketball Podcast with your hosts, Mike Randall and Gus Kearns.
Welcome in, listeners. Welcome to the Screener College Basketball Podcast, NBA Draft 2002 edition. Thank you for choosing us to keep you company on Thursday, which is a draft day. Like, Mike, I'm pretty excited about this. You could have spent your time with anybody else, but you chose to be here with Mike and Gus, so we appreciate that. Mike, we go way back in the draft, so I'm kind of excited just to kind of kick it a little old school here and talk about what some of our beliefs are, and then, you know, where we might find some movers and shakers, risers and fallers.
Way back in the draft. Guys, let me tell you, Gus and I have known each other, God, I want to say, so it's 12, 13, probably 30 plus years. No,
you're going to date us here a little bit, is what
I don't freaking care. I don't freaking care. 30 plus years. Guys, he used to come to my house. It was somebody's his house, and we would make a board and write the numbers in. And of course, my favorite one of all time, Gus, was 93 with Weber and Hardaway. I mean, that was just insanity. Right. But we love it. It's great. I can't wait. I've been diving into the numbers for God knows how long. I'm lighting Twitter on fire because I think Johnny Davis will go top 10. So I'm ready to go. I can't wait. And I want to hear your thoughts because we've been texting. Yeah. Of course, we haven't sat down and talk about it. So many great things. Let's dive into it.
Okay. Yeah. I think the first place that we need to start is definitely with the top three. There seems to be a consensus top three for the NBA draft this particular season, 2022 edition. Mike, I think that it's going to go Jabari, Chet, and then Paolo. And I know there's been some movement with Paolo maybe fluctuating and getting some juice, for lack of a better word, at number one or number two. Where do you kind of see things, and where do you see value?
Yeah, I just think you have to decide if you want to do this. When people ask, I believe in trying to predict what's going to happen. A lot of people give you their own opinion. Sam Vecini's wonderful. He gave a pod the other day, said, this is what we think should happen. I'm going to give you what I think will happen. Now, I've been on record about Chet Holmgren. I think Chet Holmgren is going to have a very long career in the NBA. Yep. I think he's going to be a multi-time All-Star. I just wouldn't pick him at number one. I actually have him, Gus, at number two. So I don't think like I'm dropping him that far. The Chet apologists, I'm bashing Chet Holmgren. I have number two overall in the draft. My attitude, really quick, and then give me your top three. I have said Jabari no matter what. I did bet it. I bet it on DraftKings. It was plus 100 about 6 weeks ago. I am on Jabari. My argument is this. He is 6'10". He is 220. He played in the SEC. He led the SEC champion Auburn Tigers in scoring and three-point percentage. Good motor. Second on the team in rebounding, 7.5 rebounds per game. He was at plus 100. It dropped to minus 275, which means you got to wager $275 to win 100. It started going the other direction. Now it's back again over minus 200. I don't know what it is. I think, Gus, it's because he's not charismatic. I think they want like remember Baker Mayfield with the Brown. He's not that guy. But I'll tell you this. He played on Auburn. He dominated on Auburn. He's super young, 19 years, 1 month. What's not to like? I have him first.
I would agree. I think it would be hard to pass up the cross-section of athleticism, shooting, size, age you mentioned. I think all of those things point to him being a very valuable commodity at the number one pick. I think the thing that maybe stands out with him the most is the combination of the length and the accurate shooting. You could make an argument in this draft he's a top three shooter. Normally we would reserve that for a wing player, maybe even a point guard. We're talking about your small forward or your power forward here. So if you're going to get the best shooter in the draft, who's also 6'10", and has shown that he can move around the floor and is willing to effort on the defensive end and guard multiple positions. I'm not saying he's excellent at it, but he's willing to effort. Yeah, I'm in with that. That sounds okay.
And I'd like to thank you, buddy, for not ripping me apart, because a lot of people have made Jabari Smith comparable Jonathan Isaac, who I was technically very against. And now I'm reversing course. But thank you for passing on that. My number two is Chet Holmgren. Oklahoma City's been very tight-lipped about as always about what they're going to do. Yep. Listen, I think there is a very logical reason to take that Holmgren one. I see what people see, which is the upside. I get it. I get the whole thing. I don't think he's Durant. Some people have said he can develop that. I don't see that. But I have no problem if you think he can put on weight, get stronger, and obviously his guard skill. I get it. I just don't understand why he has upside and the kid who was 18 years old for most of the year, leading Auburn, scoring and rebounding, doesn't. I don't know why Smith is at his ceiling and Chet isn't. But I think Chet's going 2. I don't think they're taking Paolo number 2. I think Paolo's going to the Rockets. I've had questions about Paolo. I loved him in game run. I texted you and our friend from the Bucks talking about how great he was. And then I just didn't see him. I said a little bit, let the game come to me. But Paolo Banchero is 6'10". He's outside. He can handle. I get it. They got rid of Christian Wood. So certainly that makes total sense. I think Chet's number 2 to Oklahoma City. He fits the youth movement, 20 years, 1 month, defense, the whole thing, 39% 3-point range, fine. And I have Banchero 3. What do you think?
I would agree completely with both of those. I think Chet Holmgren fits the OKC profile as unique talent that maybe they would feel like they needed to dig up like they usually would do. Like, let's just throw up Josh Giddey out there. But Chet, they have the 2 pick, so why not go with the most unique talent? And that's definitely Chet Holmgren. And you mentioned Paolo. Paolo might be, the most game ready of the 3 of them. Like, you could see him coming in and being on a starting lineup, maybe a little quicker than the first 2. But like you mentioned, long term. And you asked the question, Mike, of why do people think that, Jabari has hit the ceiling and why Chet still has potential. That just goes back to the weight issue. That's why that questioning or that verbiage is thrown around with those 2 players, especially in the same conversation. So, I mean, if you come in rail thin, like Chet has, so did Giannis. Like Giannis came in rail thin too, and
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, and got his, got pushed around and got lessons taught to him early. So is Chet ready to take that type of, education where he's going to get pushed around? I think he is.
I just think you can go on social media and get anything you want. Now people are holding Jabari Smith's size again. So because he's built, now he doesn't have upside.
Right, right.
And I'm a little lower on Chet than you, but I'm not passing on Chet Holmgren with the 2nd pick. I think he is a very solid piece of a winning team in the NBA. I think he's a future All-Star. So no argument here. I'm fine with it. Banchero, by the way, a couple nuggets for you. Refused to work out for the Magic twice. I mean, that doesn't make – I mean, so you could steam all you want, guys. Like, why would the Magic want him if he refuses to work out for them twice? Right now, Gus, I'm on DraftKings.
That by the way, that's a Paolo power move right there.
Right, power move. That's great.
Yeah.
And you're not going first. You didn't work out for us? We want you more. Just doesn't work. Here you go, Gus. Right now, DraftKings updated tonight. Jabari Smith's now minus 450 to go first. And I don't – as we get closer, things do leak. He's minus 450.
Right.
Banchero is plus 380. Banchero was down to plus 200. So there was some steam going, but he's
I noticed that earlier in the week. Yeah.
Now it's plus 380. Chet Holmgren's at plus 550. But for the number 2 pick, Gus, Chet Holmgren minus 330.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And then Banchero's plus 350. And then Banchero for the 3rd pick is minus 400. So it certainly seems like that's the way it's going to go.
And just, this is one of my favorite parts of the draft is to just do like some simple comps. We won't go super deep here, but if you're going to compare Jabari to somebody, you might just look into like the Magic's past, and it might be like a Rashad Lewis type player.
Nice.
Maybe
Great.
A little bit more skilled.
Nice.
Chet, I like the comparison with Brandon Ingram. Slight, multi-skilled, had to find his way.
That's good.
Maybe the second team that he's on, if Oklahoma City like sours on him, that's where he blossoms. And then with Paolo, maybe Tobias Harris with a couple of more inches and a little better shooter.
You're good at this. This is good.
All right. So those are the top 3 comps that we have out there. What do you want to hit on next here, Mike?
Well, let's go next to let's just go to 4-5 real quick. Okay.
Yeah.
So if the Kings keep this pick at 4,
I'm just giggling because I think the Kings will do something silly.
Right. Kings being Kings, right?
Right.
If the Kings keep it, I don't know why I believe this. I mean, it comes down to what your gut says. Right. I do think they're going to take Keegan Murray. I believe they took him at the dinner. Now they didn't work out Jaden Ivey, but that doesn't matter because they didn't work David Mitchell out either. So I'm not going by that, but I kind of buy that because he's a bigger player. He could guard 4s. His defense was better than people realized. He was ranked number 7 overall in the Big Ten in defense. I know he gambles for steals. A lot of times you saw him going for steals and he's gotten beat back door. I get that, but he's not a horrific defender, particularly in the post. At least the numbers have graded out. I was really impressed with his scoring in Iowa. We saw some big games by him. Took a huge leap. If someone trades up to 4, they're trading up for Ivy. They're not trading up for Keegan Murray. So if the only way I hit on the Keegan Murray number 4, which I have a little slice of right now, is if the Kings keep the pick and do the King stuff. Right now, Gus, fourth overall pick, DraftKings, Jaden Ivey -175, Keegan Murray +145. So a little closer.
It's worth a look, but I mean, if you're if it depends on where you are with Ivy too. Like if you think Ivy is as dynamic as De'Aaron Fox or Ja Morant, then you definitely go there.
Yep.
And if, to be honest, like, do we think that Keegan is going to be like that much better than Harrison Barnes is as a pro?
Gus, Ja Morant doesn't lose to St. Peter's. I'm sorry. I watched that game, and Jaden. Listen. Does anybody love Jaden Ivey more than me? No,
right.
But he's not Ja Morant. The turnovers are a major issue. The 3-point shooting, he's not consistent, and he does do some odd things. Like Ja got in the flow of the game. I would take him 4th, but if the Kings keep the pick, I think they're taking Keegan Murray. Just my opinion.
Interesting. All right, and then with 5, I mean, what did you have a little take there that you were interested in?
Yeah, there's a lot of hits coming in on Mathurin going 5. It's a thing. There's a lot of steam coming to and say Detroit likes him. Right now, there is no one at negative money at 5th overall. Keegan Murray's +130, Mathurin's +200. So there's no real favorite in that. So if you want to get a bet in, guys, maybe look for a little Mathurin +200, the 5th overall pick, because there's a lot of talk about it. I don't know if it's true, but there's talk about it.
I have thoughts that we'll get to a little bit later on the 5th pick.
Great. Let's do risers and fallers.
Okay, I'm down.
First faller, Jalen Duren. I got him over 10.5 -114 on FanDuel. I don't know why he's a top 10 guy. He's always been mocked there. Why? Right. I know he's a big guy. I know he's young. I get that. Duren 12-8 per game in the AAC. And then you have Mark Williams, 6'10", 250, played fantastic in the tournament and did really well at the workouts. They talked about his shooting. He interviewed well. I'm not saying Mark Williams going ahead of Jalen Duren. I'm saying the difference between them, Gus, is less than people think, which is why I think Duren's falling. Just my opinion. What do you think?
I totally agree. I think that those two can be a coin flip. The one thing with Duren that I think you can jump on is I'm very in on the over as well. Like maybe he is like obtaining some Bam likeness, but I really don't think so. The only spot that I can see him going inside the top 10 is 9 at the Spurs. And we've seen how they they value really versatile wing-ish players. And yes, the NBA guessing sensation Jakob Poeltl is going to be like a free agent next summer. So maybe they're double downing on that and just making sure they have coverage. But they also excel, the Spurs, this is, at really picking the pile for the free agent leftovers. Just look at Zach Collins, Keita Bates-Diop, and our old friend Jacques Landale from St. Mary's. And if we use the past few years of any gauge with the Spurs, they're going to swing big. And they're going to pick a player that they're going to fit into their profile. Just look at Josh Primo, Devin Vassell. Again, very over on Duren. I think 12 makes sense. Maybe they want to muscle up with Chet. Charlotte makes sense with one of their picks. And the Spurs might even just wait and get him at 20. So I feel very strong about the over here.
Yeah, they have what? They have 29, 20, and 25.
Yep.
Right? So are we sure that Duren is worth 9 when you can get Walker Kessler later? And I'm only saying that because if they like Sohan, if there's another player is what I'm saying that they like. I don't know. And you've taught me this because remember I was on Vernon Carey. Is Vernon Carey anywhere right now? Like the big men are phasing out. So
if they can't guard in space.
If they can't guard in space and shoot and do basically what Holmgren can do. But if Sohan's there and everyone really loves him because he's so versatile in defense, I'd say pass on Duren. Maybe we get lucky with Mark Williams. And even if we don't, just get Walker Kessler. Just my thought. I don't think Duren is worth the flag play. I don't. I don't think this isn't Shaq. And he was okay. I know he's young. There's a lot of young guys in this draft. So I think he's a faller. I got him over 10.5. I think you're taking that to the bank. It could be San Antonio. You're right. But when they take my guy Ochai Agbaji, that's not going to happen. Okay. Very bold. I know.
Yeah.
Riser Gus. Sohan.
Yeah.
Got him under 12.5, minus 170 on DK. I don't care about the juice because if I think I'm right, I'll lay the juice. I'm not going to lay minus 400. I'm not going to bet $4 to win 100, but minus 170 is fine for me. He's rising fast across the board. His over-under was 14.5 early. That's gone. Multi-dimensional, guard every position. Can't score. Okay, under 30% from three, 58% from the free throw line. But sort of a crazy guy, sort of a Rodman-esque type of guy. Great fit, great defender. I could see him Charlotte. I could see the Knicks. I could see under 12.5. What do you think?
I'm very under here. Like, I think that, okay, here's how under I am. I feel like this could be like the surprise.
Yes.
We saw the Bulls kind of surprise everybody last year with Patrick Williams at number 4.
Good.
The reason that they took Patrick Williams at number 4 is because everybody in the East needs a forward at least approaching some sort of resistance against Giannis and then even against Brown and Tatum. And, we're not even mentioning like Jimmy Butler, Bam, and Pascal Siakam. Mm-hmm. Sohan is the guy that can provide that resistance inside this draft.
Yep.
6'9", 230, 7-foot wingspan, athletic. Plus, Sohan has not followed the traditional path of like the one-and-done college player / G League frosh. He comes from across the pond. He plays for the Polish national team. And Detroit at 5 needs somebody to slow down some of these high-octane forwards. And Indiana's roster screams for somebody like Sohan. He could go 5 or 6. Look, I know Isaiah Jackson's defensive numbers last season might have been a little bit of demonic behavior where it looked good, but was it really useful? I don't know. I think we want to see that in some sort of winning basketball setting. So I think that if we're going to find a shocker somewhere, it might be Sohan at 5 or 6 because of the needs of teams in the East.
Excellent point. But wait a minute. I understand Patrick Williams was picked. So that you mean like if players aren't mocked correctly, they can get picked crazily? Like Johnny Davis at 9. Okay. Moving on.
I was hoping I would give you a window for this conversation. Go for it. Jump right through it.
I'm going to stick to the script because I always go off script on you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Another riser, Gus. I got 2 more riser and a faller. Riser, Ousmane Dieng. Over-under's 11.5. The under's minus 125. The over's minus 105. So it's kind of, we don't know the 11.5. That's kind of Vegas saying, I'm not sure. It's almost a coin flip.
Right.
One of the biggest risers from pre-draft. I think the Thunder continue the youth movement with him and grab him. He's impressed with the Australian NBL league. High octane guy, 6'10", really long. Put him with Shea, put him with Giddey, put him with Holmgren. Plenty of time to develop. People like him. They like him a lot. And he went from plus 450 in the top 10 to plus 125. So he really projects Gus right on that 10 spot there, around there. He's risen a lot. I don't know if he's risen enough for you to like the 11.5, but he has risen.
I'm gonna go slightly over here. He could show up for the Spurs at 9, or maybe even for the Pels at 8. I just have a feeling like Jordan and the Hornets are gonna try to make a big run, go for a big, Mark Williams or Duren, like we mentioned earlier, and then one versatile, athletic defensive wing who can run with ball and Bridges. Dieng fits that exactly. So I'll go over here with a little worry about the Spurs and the Pelicans because they also value those types of players. So I'm kind of with Vegas here, but unless he goes at 9 or 8, I think that over is a decent pick. Yeah.
Little movement on Dieng right now. Under 11.5 is minus 135. The over, you get plus money. So you can actually get plus money. Not a huge difference, but a little bit movement towards the under. But again, you have to name a team, which is the hard part, like you just said.
Right.
Last one for me, who I think is going to be a faller, is AJ Griffin of Duke. Over under is 10.5. The over is now minus 265. Okay, the under is plus 210. So they give you 2-1 money if you think Griffin's going to the top 10. I don't. There are injury concerns. There's an injury history. He's a shooter. I get it. There's too many guys in this draft. You're taking a pure shooter. That's it. I have not seen him create off the dribble. I've seen him been scalding hot. I think he's a superior shooter. They win the 3-point contest. That's great. I don't think that's the type of player you take top 10. So I'm hitting the over here at 10.5 minus 265. I don't care. I think he is one of the fallers. This is a guy who is always Gus in the top 10, no longer.
I think I'm going to disagree with you here because I think there was a time where I personally had in my head that Griffin might be a better NBA player / prospect than Paolo. just to go full disclosure on the podcast here, he still might end up being that player. Think like Gary Trent, Buddy Hield, Desmond Bain. Like
those
he's
are
that
those
type
are all
of
good.
shooter.
Very good. Excellent.
Yeah, right. Like he kind of fits that a physical profile and shooting profile. But I'm going to say the top 10 is a little too rich for my blood, so I like the over here. Minnesota at 19 is perfect.
Oh, so we're aligned. We're both aligned.
Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
But I'm admitting my weakness because earlier on, I think I could have slot him a little bit higher.
Oh, I got it.
I think that just now, like currently, like 2002, June 23rd, 2022. He's not the player that he's going to be, so he'll get drafted he'll get drafted in the position that the player that he is now. He just might end up being a great shooter in the league. And I think if he heals up and finds his old athletic self, he'll end up being a plus NBA starter, like fifth or fourth starter. I still go over for the process of the conversation. How about that?
Yeah, they changed this on DraftKings now. Fascinating. So the 10.5's gone. You can't get a 10.5 on. Maybe on Bet365. So yes, 10.5 had high juice at minus 265. Now it's 11.5.
Yeah.
So now that is a killer. When they bump it up a pick, that's a killer because they're now saying we're not giving you 10.5. You got to go 11.5, and it's minus 140. So you're still a favorite to go over. I think he's dropping. I just think he's too one-dimensional. I go, why would you take him over Sohan? I know I get it, but do you really need a shooter that much? There aren't other shooters in this draft. He is a great one. I'm not arguing that. I just think it's a lot of high draft capital. That's all. That's all I got, man. My last thing I'll say, and then we'll get to some other ones I want to get your answer on.
Yeah.
I just think Johnny Davis is good. And I got him. I put him in the chat. I put him at minus 10.5.
Mm-hmm.
And I took it, and then I put it in at minus 9.5. I 9.5 I grabbed. Under 9.5 plus 210 at Caesars. And what I said was Davis is not getting enough love from the general public because of the Wisconsin rep. I saw the 37-14 against Purdue. I saw the 30-12 against Indiana. I saw those games. He's a big-time player. This kid can score. He is a good defender. He has a high motor. He has a stocky build. I like it. I think the kid's good. I got him at on 9.5. That's 2-1. It's a little frisky. Okay, I get that. And I also grabbed him at under 10.5 at minus 122 on FanDuel. Right now, if you go to DraftKings for Johnny Davis, under Gus right now, Mr. Davis, over 9.5. See, they dropped it. So they got rid of the 10. They're saying we know he's going 10. Over 9.5 is minus 260. Under 9.5 is plus 200. So they have now moved it from the 10. You can't get the 10 anymore, which makes it seem, Gus, that they expect him to go Washington at number 10.
Well, I think this is where you have to pay attention to, like we talked about earlier with the Sohan conversation of like what teams are picking where. And I am total agreement with you. Johnny Davis is good. Like that just might be the name of the podcast. And here's another question I have for you and for the listeners out there. Do you think if he ended the season healthy, we would even be having this conversation of him being like 10, 11, 12? No.
Not at all. And Gus, do people realize he won the Big Ten Player of the Year, which was impressive, and he won the Jerry West Award for Best Shooting Guard. Now you're gonna poo-poo me and say, "Oh, he won the Jerry West Award." Mike, who cares? Who cares what the mock drafts have him? And I think I'm a lock for 10.5. I mean, so I'm getting money back either way. And I think San Antonio could reach. They could get Sohan. I understand that, but I think it's within the realm of possibility. What I'd love to hear, I heard this tonight, is Portland, Gus, is looking to trade the number 7 pick for OG Anunoby to Toronto.
Ooh.
Okay. And then give me him to Toronto. No? I don't know.
I think that sounds okay.
So anyway, that's where I'm at.
And listen, if we're going to break down Johnny Davis's game, number 1, he can create in space. We've seen that. Number 2, the guy competes. Like he took that matchup. You highlighted that matchup with Purdue and Jaden Ivey being on the other side. He took that matchup and being like, Jaden Ivey's on all these highlight films and is getting these SportsCenter clips and all this praise. I'm going to show you that I should have my name in that conversation as well. So the fact that he like is cognizant of that, and then we've talked about earlier on the podcast during conference tournament season and even during March Madness where Jaden Ivey wasn't playing winning basketball.
He was not. That's correct.
He was playing basketball to look like a first-round draft.
That is my issue. That's why I cooled on him. And you would think that's my type of guy, but that's why I cooled on him. I didn't like it.
And Johnny Davis balled out and played hurt the second half of the season.
Yep.
So I like his makeup. I like his grit. And also, when healthy, you saw the first half of the season, he can play with anybody in the nation, including anybody in this draft.
Sounds good, brother. And you got let's hit it with some who gets drafted first.
Yeah. So these I want to hit you up with because these are some of our darlings from the college basketball season, and hopefully names that we'll hear during the draft later on this evening. Mike, who gets drafted first, and who would you draft first? So there might be the same answer, it might be two different answers. All right, Mike. Who gets drafted first, Patrick Baldwin or Caleb Houston?
Caleb Houston, and I take Patrick Baldwin. Caleb Houston has been rumored to be a first-round pick, top 30 pick. There's a huge disconnect, I think, between what the fans think of him and what the scouts do. He declined an invite to the NBA Combine because he believes he's already a first-round pick, Caleb Houston. Okay. He was 38.4% from the floor, 35% from three-point range. Very mediocre Santa. That's what he was. But he has upside. He looks smooth. He looks Doug Christie. He looks like the type of player. I would take Baldwin. I have no problem with Baldwin coming from Milwaukee. Maybe they're a little bit underachieved, a lot of potential. But everywhere I've seen, Houston is going top 30. And that does stick with the arrogant NBA scouts saying, we can fix this guy. What do you think?
I think Houston will go first, and I'm with you. I would go Baldwin first. All right, Mike, who gets drafted first? EJ Liddell or Dalen Terry? And then who would you draft first?
Dalen Terry's on fire right now. Yeah. He's going through the roof. His odds are flying up the draft board here. I would take Liddell. I'm praying Liddell goes to the Bucks for obvious reasons. But right now, if you made me guess, I think it's Terry. Terry is flying up draft boards. People love him, his versatility, quality guard. People talk about him go to the Grizzlies because Tyus Jones could hit free agency. He's one of those great guards off the bench. I think Terry's going first. I love Liddell. I think Liddell's underrated. I hope he goes to Milwaukee. But if I had a bet, I'd bet Terry.
I think Terry might tickle some end of the lottery type things in the teens. Yeah. I'm with you too. And I think it depends on your team need. If you wanted to win now, I would take Liddell. If you had a little bit of time and a little bit of space for growth, go Terry. All right, Mike, who gets drafted first? Ron Harper Jr. or David Roddy?
Oh my God!
You draft first.
Oh my God! I mean, I can't think logically about Colorado State players, so I have to step out of this. I think that they will drop Roddy down in the draft, similar to how they detract Holmgren. I think they do get into this body type thing.
Yep.
Roddy looks like a power forward, and he's not. I think they'll go with Harper. Harper had some big shots. He's been a little bit better in terms of how he's been showcased as a guard than Roddy. Roddy to play inside for Colorado State is pretty much their only big for most of the year. My heart's with Roddy, but my head says Harper goes first.
I would agree. I think that Roddy somebody's going to take a chance on him.
That'd be great. He'd be great. I put him in the mock for Fantasy Pros. I put him at the Spurs just because I would love him to go to the Spurs. But
yeah, that sounds like a good fit. All right, Mike, who gets drafted first? Ty Washington or Malachi Branham? And who would you draft first?
Yeah, I think Ty is dropping. I would take Branham, and I think Branham will go first. I have Branham going at 16 to the Hawks. 6'5", he's $180. Really nice 3-level scorer. I know there's injury concerns, but he was 50% from the field, 41% from three-point range, and really good ball handling skills. Nice wingspan as well for defense. I think Branham has huge upside, like top 10 upside. I think he goes in the middle of the teens. And I think Ty is starting to drop because people just really didn't get to see him because he was sharing time at the point guard position. So Branham to me could be a starter. Ty to me is probably a backup. I'm going to go Branham both ways.
Okay, I think that Branham will get drafted first. I would take Ty Washington. The reason I would go Ty is because we've seen the success with these Kentucky guards, whether it be in New York, whether it be in Philly. Like those guys come and they make an impact, even though their draft position says maybe they shouldn't have that type of impact. All right, last one, Mike. Who gets drafted first? Who would you draft first? Ryan Rollins or Trevor Keels? Little program, giant program.
Wow, that is a great question. Damn. I'm going to say Rollins because I was not impressed with Keels. I thought Keels looked good at times, and then he was sort of in and out. And maybe that's the Duke thing because he wasn't as involved. He took a backseat to Banchero. I'll take Ryan Rollins for the versatility, for everything you talked about, being the tall wing that can do multiple things. I just didn't see it from Keels. And I don't know if Keels is he can attack the basket, but can he attack the basket well enough to that to be his thing in the NBA? He can shoot a little bit, but he can't shoot it well. I think Rollins is a better fit. I like Rollins better, and I think Rollins will go first, although you're probably going to tell me I'm wrong about that.
No, I think that Rollins might go first, too, simply because of the shooting numbers. And I think it all depends on what type of physicality Trevor Keels brought into each one of those workouts. Was he, we talked about the body type thing with David Roddy and Chet Holmgren. That also might fall into play with Trevor Keels as well. Like he's going to be quick enough to guard on the perimeter where he's going to be stationed. So I like Rollins a little bit more than Keels as well, even though Keels does have like that big play knack mentality. All right, Mike, I am glad we played who gets drafted first and who would you draft first. And then, Mike, how about you want to hit up with a couple of sleepers, guys that we really like from the college basketball season that you kind of have your eye on that could provide value for certain teams?
Yeah, fire away, brother. Go ahead.
All right. So I think the first place we need to go is a place that we've watched pretty much more than anybody. And we have to go out to the Mountain West. I don't know if anybody else besides the Screen the Screener podcast watches, like, nobody watches more. People may watch as much, but I don't know if anybody watches more Mountain West. And one of the guys out there is Orlando Robinson from Fresno State. Total NBA player, has NBA size, shoots at 35% from three. He can pass it. He can handle a little bit. The question is going to be the defense. He's like I'm not a Starbucks guy, but is he like a Trenti-sized George Niang?
Wow. Venti, you mean Venti-sized George. That's got to be the name of the podcast. I mean, I know he's second round, but you are so good at these comps, man. I swear to God, that is tremendous.
I know that you've seen him a ton too. And
is it Trenta? Is Trenta size of Starbucks? Maybe you're right.
Listen, I asked my daughters, and I said, "Is there one bigger than Vente?"
And it's Trenta. I didn't even know.
It might be Trenta, but again, I'm not a Starbucks guy. I'm more of like a Java Love guy. So like that I don't know. That's neither here nor there.
Orlando Robinson was super impressive with that Fresno State team, which really had nothing around him. They played very slow. His numbers could have been better in a fast-paced situation. Correct. He can step out and shoot it. He's excellent. I agree with you on he's getting picked in the second round, and I'm mad I didn't put him in my mock now at Fantasy Pros as I'm looking at it. I love Orlando Robinson. I think it's an excellent call on a sleeper. Home run pick.
Sleeper number 2, how about Jordan Hall? Yep. St. Joe's, 6'7" wing. He shoots at over 36% from three. As a soph, he averaged almost 7 boards, almost 6 dimes a game. That put him 11th nationally for assists per game. He can play make, he can handle, but he plays at his own speed. So you might think like, he doesn't look quote unquote athletic. But I mean, I think we just think like Kyle Anderson here, and we see how impactful Kyle Anderson has been in his NBA career and most recently with the Grizz.
Yep, it's a great call. We ended up being on St. Joe's, had a chance to talk to their assistant coach prior to the season.
Yep.
He's very high on Jordan Hall. The comparison to Kyle Anderson is stupid good. It's stupid good. It's just such a great call. I didn't even think of it. 6'7" wings that can shoot it, that are long, that have the wingspan, are always going to get a flyer in the second round. Quintessential second round pick. Excellent call.
Absolutely. And then my last guy is big program, Wendell Moore, Duke. He does too many things too well. After seeing Bruce Brown from the Nets, Grant Williams from the Celtics, your guy, Lou Dort, OKC, Jason Tate from the Rockets, who all quote unquote play out of position and still find success individually stat wise and also success for their teams. Moore is exactly that type of player. Somebody who's going to make winning plays. He's selfless. He can play anywhere on the floor. He's more, aposomatic. He really holds some true NBA bite with his game and makes winning plays. I think he could show up in the late first round. And if not, somebody's going to get a gem in the second round with Wendell Moore.
Yeah, Wendell Moore strikes me as the type of guy who can blossom, who is held back by the Duke system. I think he is more upside than Trevor Keels. I think he is more versatile and has not been allowed to flourish as
Great
much.
comparison.
That's
Yeah.
an excellent call. The other thing that excites me greatly is I've never heard nor used the word apostematic. So that's just tremendous. So great job by you. But yes, that is a great, I agree. I mean, I sound like an idiot here, but I agree with everything you just said. I mean, your comps are great.
Love doing the comps.
The one guy that I'll throw at you that I really like, that I'm rooting for, I'm gonna say Bolt. First of all, I think Nikola Jovic is gaining steam now. He is mocked in the latest one by Wasserman in the second round.
Okay,
I think he's a first round player. I think he's a versatile player. I'd love to see him at Memphis where he can develop. The kid is talented. He is absolutely talented. Needs to play more defense. I understand that. So I'm rooting for him. But the two that jump out to me, number one, I think Jalen Williams from Santa Clara, and we saw him a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Little under the radar. He is a rapid riser. He is right now. I'm not seeing him outside the top 20 in every single mock. They love Jalen Williams. They love them Santa Clara. Definitely the type of Josh Primo, Bones Highland guy that just sort of rose coming out of the combine. And the other player that I liked, same name, different team, Gus, I think Jalen Williams showed us a lot against Gonzaga. Yeah. I know he's a center. He's a back-to-the-basket player. He's not a great dribbler. I get it. But can he do what Isaiah Roby does? You know what I mean? That type of like player on a team, and I think he has upside. And I just was very impressed how he stayed out of foul trouble, and he was very controlled against Gonzaga. Not a first-round player, but a guy that I'm rooting for to see get picked in the early second round.
I'll hit on. I love both of these highlights that you picked out. Number one, we'll go Jalen Williams for Santa Clara. Obviously, we watched him a ton, watching the West Coast Conference. The guy can do everything, has legit NBA size on the wing, and has shown up and played big against Gonzaga, the number one team in the nation. So I'm totally in on him somewhere in the first round. You said in the teens. I think that could make sense. He's another guy that makes sense for the Spurs at 20. If you're in that neighborhood, if he falls to the Bucks, I'm down with that as well. Yeah. And then you know who I think Jalen Williams from Arkansas reminds me of? I think he reminds me of Blake Griffin, like today, right now.
Oh, that's good. Oh,
okay. He's going to take some charges.
Yeah.
He's going to shoot some threes.
He's going
to make some good passes.
If Blake Griffin actually played inside the 3-point line, every time we see him against the Bucks, he's out in the corner. But sorry,
he is.
Got jumped over Kia, and now he doesn't go in the paint. But okay.
Well, yeah, that's why I said Blake Griffin now in 2022. Right. So I think he could be. I think he could have an impact in the similar fashion that Blake Griffin does now for the Nets. And we saw how much trust that the coaching staff had in a player like that, who they know is going to effort defensively and know all the rotations. And that's, he showed that he has a very high game IQ. And you referenced that Gonzaga game, and that's the perfect sample size and thumbnail sketch for him to highlight that game IQ that he does own. Before
we wrap it up, I just want to do a rapid fire for you, brother.
Yeah, let's go.
Is this player going to be a first round selection or not? Just looking for a yes or no.
Okay.
Because there's some that are in the bubble. Justin Lewis of Marquette.
No.
Christian Brown of Kansas.
No, but I think he's going to be a good NBA player.
Max Christie, Michigan State?
No shot.
Okay, thank you. How about your boy Nembhard?
No, but he's going to go to a winning program and help them as a backup guard because he runs one of the slickest pick and rolls and is NBA ready in that fashion.
Kennedy Chandler, Tennessee?
I'm going to say yes, he is. I think the size, if he's 6'4", we're talking to him at the late end of the lottery.
It's going to break your heart on this one, brother. You know where I think he's going? I think Monte Morris getting a little old in Denver. I've seen that, and it made sense to me. I know Monte is one of your guys, and he's been so good. But I can see them saying, here comes Murray, here comes Porter. Chandler could be a much cheaper version of Monte, although I think Monte's underrated. But I read that, and it kind of went off in my head. Is Monte
that teaming does make sense, and I like doing exactly what you did too, like finding the program and the player that actually makes sense of like, okay, that he'll fit in that culture, or he'll fit in that system, and that totally makes sense.
Yeah, I seen him and Ty going to Denver, so kind of on the point guard thing. Yep. Anyway, that was great, man. Let's wrap up.
Yeah, that sounds great, listeners. Thank you so much. thanks for letting us keep you company during the NBA draft day and evening. Hopefully you guys enjoy it in whatever fashion you plan to. Hope a couple of familiar names come up and they go to places that you can continue watching their professional careers grow. And thank you for tuning back into the Screen to Screener College Basketball Podcast. And this is where Mike and I's knowledge kind of like meld and mend together. And, we take a look at the NBA game and see what players we've been paying attention to all season and what spots and holes and jigsaw places they can fill in. So thank you for letting us, educate you. And hopefully today, maybe one of the things that we talked about, like you'll act on, or maybe even just sound like, sound intuitive and smart in your NBA draft conversation. So we're happy to help in that fashion as well. 2 flag plants, brother. Jabari, Chet, Paolo, in that order. Number 2, if Johnny Davis hits at 9 or lower, just block me right now. Yeah, I want Sohan in the top 10 as well. So that's where I'm planting my flag as well. That's good. All right, listeners. Cilantro, God Salatzia. Cheers. Be safe. I'm addicted to the appetite.